All right, ladies, we're ready.
My name is Hannah Davis.
And my name is Elizabeth Gormley.
And we will be presenting
The Indelible Ink of a Pen.
To the esteemed members of the Pennsylvania General Assembly, my husband, William Penn, your proprietor, has become gravely ill, which has made him unable to govern the colony which he has started. Letitia, I'm worried that they will reject my words.
Father is your husband, Mother, and so if he is unable to continue his managing of Pennsylvania, you should do it in his stead. Father had to have had courage when he petitioned King Charles II of England in May of 1680 to grant him a piece of land in the New World. You need to have courage as well.
Your father's not timid about anything. The crown owed £16,000 to the deceased Admiral Penn, your grandpapa, and William suggested that they bestow him a plot of land north of Maryland instead of cash. The monarchy finally consented to his wish with the Committee of Trade's unanimous agreement and granted him the charter for Pennsylvania on March 4th, 1681.
See, Father had courage to ask the British crown, and he received what he requested. Just look at the legacy that has already come from what he has done in the leading of his colony. Think of how hard he worked to make even the beginning of his colony a success. He risked himself and his heirs financially, exhausting many of his own resources for the publications of his advertisements of the land purchases, for the survey conducted to establish the proper boundaries of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and the other counties, for his purchase of the lands owned by previous landholders.
William worked very strenuously to start his colony well. I pray as I commence leading this colony, I may be able to follow with the same amount of wisdom and knowledge that he had exercised. Each law he built was so extensive. Each document had so much sense and well-developed ideas, many of which were taken from England's Commonwealth writers such as Sir Thomas More's Utopia. These writings were quite useful to your father in the Pennsylvania General Assembly as they navigated through the founding stages of the Pennsylvania government. For instance, consider the laws on criminal justice.
According to Pennsylvania colonial law, a murderer is punished by death only after the 12-man jury unanimously decrees the man guilty of the charge. A thief, on the other hand, renders double retribution to the owner and freely serves the community in a workhouse for a limited time.
What would the thief's fate be if he dwelt in England?
Weeks imprisonment for mild theft and death for more serious cases. The amount of stolen goods, the social status of the person, and his church attendance factor into the decision.
The same crime receives two completely different punishments, restitution and imprisonment. The colonial chastisement frees the society for caring for many prisoners and addresses the problem directly. But the English system is only burdened with them and creates more criminals.
There are many other personal benefits that people in Pennsylvania possess because of Father's leadership. Pennsylvania allows people the right to liberty of conscience, as Father calls it. He said in one of his writings that it was the free and uninterrupted exercise of our consciences. In that way of worship, we are most clearly persuaded God requires us to serve him in.
Your father wrote about liberty of conscience during one of his numerous imprisonments. He became a Quaker when he was a young man and was arrested more than once for his faith. Your father wasn't the only one being persecuted for religious beliefs, though. In many European countries, people face the daily threat of persecution because of their faith. I myself have witnessed the persecution of other Quakers in London. They were seized in chains for simply not attending the required church services, but instead meeting in secret to discuss the Holy Scriptures.
Wasn't Father arrested in 1670, along with his friend Mr. William Meade, on charges of assembling with force and arms, and preaching to an illegal gathering to the great terror and disturbance of many of the king's liege people and subjects?
Indeed, Letitia. The jury pronounced your father and Mr. Meade not guilty to the verdict, although the judge and the prosecutor deemed the verdict otherwise. The judge imprisoned the jury for 3 days, hoping they would change their verdict. To your father's advantage, the jury maintained their original verdict. Your father was freed.
This explains why Father was so insistent that Pennsylvania should have a non-biased jury who faced no consequences for their given verdict.
It also explains one of his reasons for making religious freedom the law in Pennsylvania. You see, your father not only valued the importance of the jury, but he also wanted his personal experience of religious persecution to never occur in his colony. In his very first Constitution of Pennsylvania, he made it the first point that all men and women shall have and enjoy the free possession and exercise of his or her faith, as long as every such person uses not this Christian liberty to licentiousness.
Mother, when you begin your letter to the Pennsylvania General Assembly again, you can include what we have just now mentioned together, Father's leadership of his colony, and the legacies that have already shown themselves because of his work. Present to the General Assembly what he has done, and then write how you are just as capable as he to help with the running of the colonial government.
I feel that it will be hard to convince the Assembly for my help, especially since I am William's wife.
Of the three branches of the government, the Council, the Governor, and the Assembly, why do you believe the Assembly will be the hardest to convince?
It's only my personal opinion, Letitia, but since the Assembly caused so much trouble for William in years past, it may be hard for them to accept my help.
The Assembly complained to Father over quite a few years while he was back here in England, didn't they? They didn't like the kind of authority they had in the government, for one thing. They were upset that, as assemblymen, they could do nothing more than vote yea or nay on bills proposed by the provincial council and by the governor. They could not enact laws of their own making or propose changes to the bills put before them, even though they are the larger body of representatives.
They may have had justifiable complaints, but they seem to have forgotten all of what William did for them and the rest of the colony. Your father made aware that the common people are made aware of the upcoming bills stated in public notices, so that then the common people are able to confer with their representatives on how they wish them to vote on the bills. On England, our current place of residence, the people are only notified after the bills have become laws.
In addition, Father established the law that the average Pennsylvanian can become a representative, and they are bound to serve only a limited time in the government. On the other hand, in England, in order to be even considered for the position of a representative, you have to be of a gentry status and possess a considerable amount of wealth and friends to back you up for your limitless time in public office.
Your father has done great things for so many people. If it is God's will, I shall continue the indelible legacy that he has already started. May as well begin that letter again. To the esteemed members of the Pennsylvania General Assembly, my husband, William Penn, your proprietor, has become gravely ill, which has made him unable to govern the colony which he has started. But though he is in a poor state of health, we must never forget what he has done for so many people over these years.
Hannah Penn, William Penn's wife, acted as proprietor of Pennsylvania after Penn received several strokes in 1712. 6 years later he died, and his son, William Penn Jr., assumed the role as Pennsylvania's proprietor.
William Penn was a magnificent leader with an evident legacy, but of course he wasn't perfect. For instance, he did not allow Indians, Jews, or Catholics to hold public office, but he still did remarkable things. He initiated the founding of Pennsylvania during King Charles II of England's reign. He convinced people to inhabit the land, and he wrote the founding documents for the colony.
Most importantly, when the people petitioned Penn to adjust the laws he had made, he complied with their wishes and created the 1701 Charter of Privileges because it was their colony as well. William Penn's governmental documents, such as the Second Frame of Government, the Charter of Privileges, propelled our founding fathers to make Pennsylvania's first state constitution, the United States Constitution, and the U.S. Bill of Rights.
William Penn was indeed a leader with a leader in a legacy. His regulations and laws have been expanded over the years and set into our current form of government. Today in Pennsylvania and the United States as a whole, we should remember that William Penn was the man who showed that justice is equal to all.
Okay.